I've been hauling cargo across the country for years, and I've seen my fair share of strange things on the road. But nothing could have prepared me for that night on Route 66. I was driving through the desolate desert, the only company being the rhythmic hum of my truck's engine and the occasional distant howl of a coyote. The road seemed to stretch endlessly in front of me, disappearing into the darkness. As I was making good time, I noticed a hitchhiker up ahead. It was an odd sight in the middle of nowhere, but something about her made me stop. She was a young woman, maybe in her early 20s, standing by the side of the road, thumb out. I pulled over and asked if she needed a lift. She climbed into the cab without saying a word, her eyes cast down. I could tell she was troubled, but I didn't want to pry. We continued in silence for a while, the desert landscape passing by in the headlights. Suddenly, she turned to me, her eyes filled with terror. "You need to drive faster," she whispered urgently. I glanced at her, puzzled. "What's wrong?" "Trust me," she said, her voice shaking. "Please, just drive faster." I did as she asked, pushing my truck to its limits. The unease in the cab was palpable. Then, I saw in the rear-view mirror a pair of glowing red eyes, impossibly large and gaining on us rapidly. Panic coursed through me as the eyes drew closer, and I floored the gas pedal. The girl was now crying, muttering something under her breath. The eyes grew brighter, and the truck rocked as if something heavy had landed on the back. I had no idea what was chasing us, but I didn't want to find out. I drove faster and faster, and the girl's pleas became increasingly frantic. The eyes were almost upon us when we reached a small, remote gas station. I pulled in, and the girl leapt out of the truck, sprinting towards the station. I never saw her again, and I never got a good look at whatever was chasing us. But one thing's for sure, I'll never forget the terror in her eyes or the dread that filled that desert night.
It was a moonless night, and I was on a long haul through the dense woods of the Pacific Northwest. The trees seemed to close in around me, their branches forming an eerie canopy over the winding road. I'd heard stories of strange occurrences in these woods, but I'd always brushed them off as superstitions. As I made my way deeper into the forest, the road narrowed, and the GPS signal started to fade. I was on my own. That's when I saw her, a pale, disheveled woman standing in the middle of the road, her tattered dress swaying in the wind. I hit the brakes hard, coming to a screeching stop just a few feet from her. I rolled down my window and asked if she needed help. She looked at me with hollow eyes, her voice trembling as she muttered, "You shouldn't have stopped." I couldn't understand her cryptic warning, but something about the situation felt off. As I considered driving around her, a chilling realization hit me: she wasn't alone. Shadowy figures emerged from the surrounding trees, surrounding the truck, and blocking any path of escape. I locked the doors and revved the engine, but the figures started to close in. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and their twisted forms filled me with dread. Panic set in as I realized I was trapped in the midst of something sinister. The woman who had warned me before now revealed a sinister grin, and the figures began to chant in an eerie, incomprehensible language. My truck's engine sputtered and died. Desperation washed over me as I realized I was completely at their mercy. Just when I thought all hope was lost, a blinding light pierced the darkness. A group of approaching headlights grew nearer, and the figures scattered into the woods. It was a group of fellow truckers who had noticed my distress and had come to my rescue. They told me that this stretch of road was notorious for strange happenings and had earned a sinister reputation. I thanked them profusely, but I couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if they hadn't arrived in the nick of time. From that night on, I've never passed through those haunted woods without a shiver running down my spine, remembering the night when the forest itself seemed to come to life with malevolent intent.
It was a cold, foggy night in the Midwest, and I was barreling down a desolate stretch of highway. My headlights barely pierced the thick mist, making it feel like I was driving through a ghostly realm. I'd always heard rumors of a haunted bridge on this road, but I never put much stock in such tales. As I approached the infamous bridge, a sense of unease washed over me. It was an old, rickety structure that looked like it had seen better days. The air grew colder, and I could hear whispers in the wind that sent shivers down my spine. Just as I was about to cross, I noticed a woman standing in the middle of the road. She was dressed in a tattered, white gown, and her long, wet hair hung in front of her face. I slammed on the brakes, my heart pounding in my chest. As I rolled down my window and asked if she needed help, she slowly lifted her head, revealing her pale, gaunt face. Her eyes were completely black, and she let out a bone-chilling scream that seemed to pierce through the fog. It was a scream of pure anguish and torment. Panicking, I hit the gas pedal, trying to get away from this horrifying apparition. But the moment I crossed the bridge, the fog grew even thicker, and I lost sight of the road ahead. It was as if I had entered another dimension, a nightmarish realm. I heard the woman's unearthly wails echoing in the distance, and the truck's engine began to sputter. Desperation took hold as I realized I was trapped in a never-ending nightmare. The fog seemed to consume everything, and I had no idea which way was out. Just when I thought I was lost forever, the fog suddenly lifted, and I found myself back on the highway, miles away from the bridge. My heart was still racing as I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the ghostly woman pursuing me. I never stopped for anything on that road again, and I never spoke of the encounter to anyone until now. To this day, I'm haunted by the memory of that spectral woman and the eerie bridge, a place where the boundary between the living